Today we are talking about our December 2022 market update. So looking at things annually and looking at things as they went in December and towards the end of the year.
Yes, it's kind of a recap. It's like a wrap up.
Yeah.
As we head into the new year.
So basically looking at annual stats versus December stats or stats towards the last half of 2022. It's really easy to give half-truths that suit a certain narrative. And we don't like to do that. We like to give the facts and talk about the truths as a whole. For example, let's say average median price point for homes in the Sacramento region was up 7% overall year over year. But if we look at the tail end of the year, so from like May to December, they were down 15%. So see how we can make it really glowing, like prices are up 7%, or we can make it really doom and gloom, things are down 15%. Both stats are true. I think the latter end of that is more of what we're seeing for the current market. So I think that's more important to pay attention to. But if you bought your home last year, that doesn't mean you got a bad deal because prices are going down, because overall prices were up last year.
Right. So it's all about perspective. It depends on which angle you look at the statistics.
But we kind of wanted to toy with that a little bit. The annual trend versus the current trend, we'll say. Annual sales volume was down about 20% last year.
And lately, the sales volume has been down 40%.
It took an average of 25 days to sell a home last year.
And last month, it took an average of 49 days to sell a home.
The median price point rose 7% annually last year.
And the median price point declined 15% since May. All of those are true.
Yeah.
All of those are true.
So you can see how, like, depending on perspective, like Nicole said, you can kind of take that whichever way.
And it depends, too, if you're buying or selling, right? And everybody has to buy or sell for a reason. Or I shouldn't say has to, but usually, right? You're not just like, oh, I love packing boxes, let's go.
Yeah.
So there's a reason, but knowing what's really going on and how you can maximize either for a buyer, the most house for your budget, or the seller, the best price for your house, you have to be aware of the stats and then also create a game plan on how to do that. But these numbers are what's going to help you understand realistically what you're going to get as a buyer and or a seller.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about sales volume. So how many transactions we saw in a given time period. So we're going to take a look at this chart right here created by the Sacramento Appraisal blog. It shows that interest rates hit above 5%. That's when we saw the big shift back in April. And you can see there that that's where the trend line started to go down. It saw a little bit of a peak there, but overall for the remainder of the year, it was down trending. And what that shows us is that we're missing about half of the buyer's market that we would see in a normal year.
But that also means if we're missing half of the market, right? That means we have half of the market.
Yes.
So is the glass half empty or half full?
All depends on your perspective.
The market's still moving. It absolutely is still moving. It's just not in an unrealistic way.
Yes. So who are these buyers that are still around?
These buyers are lifestyle buyers. And this is something that I should coin this phrase. I don't know. I say it a lot. Lifestyle buyers are the people that are buying for a reason. Maybe you want to get out of the rental market. You want to purchase your first home. Maybe you are experiencing birth or death or upsizing, downsizing. There is a reason, and moving is going to benefit your lifestyle. So those are the buyers that are in the market right now.
Yeah. Like we said, there's always, depending on which perspective you look at it, glass half empty, glass half full. There is still a lot of movement in the market, but there is a portion of the market that's missing. And so here is a graph that we typically show during our market update. It's the monthly median price in the Sacramento region. So it definitely correlates with what we saw in sales volume. So prices have been going down right around since April in correlation to when we saw those rates go up. So because rates went up, that made affordability a little bit more difficult, which was starting to drive prices down because sellers were either giving concessions or have to take a lower price to meet where the market was.
You said something really important. When we talk about affordability, we're talking about the overall affordability. So what does that include?
So that is like a combination of the interest rate and the price of the home and what that's going to do for your monthly mortgage.
Right.
So although we've been seeing prices come down, interest rates went up a little bit compared to what they were. So that's kind of put buyers in a tough position because they're having to deal with a monthly mortgage that's a little bit more than maybe what they were anticipating. So I think it's really important to note that once we see a shift in affordability, whether that's prices coming further down or interest rates coming down or whatever, when we see a shift in affordability, I think that's when we're going to see a lot more buyers come back to the market.
Absolutely. I mean, because you have to afford it. You can't be mortgage poor.
Yes, you cannot be house poor. We don't want that for anybody. So what's coming up? It's 2023. We're finally in January. We want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're entering the spring market. Now, typically in the spring market, we get more busy. So usually more houses come on the market, and usually the number of buyers are coming out looking for their next home.
Yeah. And so I'm going to pull this quote directly from Ryan because I thought it was pretty good and funny. Buyers are waking up for the year and they're hungry for quality listings after a stale fall season of overpriced leftovers. So they go straight back to the stats that we talked about. Sellers were having to come to terms with prices are shifting because of the jump in interest rates that we saw. So a lot of things have been sitting a lot longer than they were for the last, 2 or 3 years. I think where they're sitting now is normal to an average year, but sellers are kind of having to understand that. And as we move into the spring, buyers are hungry. They want to make moves, especially those lifestyle buyers.
But they want a fair move.
Yes.
They don't want to give you the stars, the moon, the sky because they have to.
Yeah.
So now it's really starting to balance out where, Mr. Seller, if you're overpriced, then you can sit there because we're not playing this game. But if you're willing to be fair to us, we're willing to give you a fair amount and meet in the middle.
Yeah. And I would say we're not quite in a buyer's market, but buyers do have a little bit more control in transaction because we're still trying to find this place where price should be to drive a little bit more activity.
And affordability.
And I think that buyers can use that control to their advantage, but need to be realistic about the deal that they're looking for. Right. Sellers are going to be willing to give concessions, but up to a certain point.
Right.
They're not
Don't give away your house for free.
Yeah. You're not going to sell your house under market value just because somebody's offering it to you. It might have to sit a little bit longer, but the right buyer will come along for the house.
Yeah.
If you're being reasonable.
Right. And we can go on and on. So going back to the stats, if you continue watching, we're going to have our county stats.
Yeah. So like, subscribe, comment if you have questions about the upcoming year, what's happening in the current market, if you think we missed anything, and we'd be happy to talk about it.